So, Jurgen, what did you think of Wonder Woman? Oh. Yeah, I saw Wonder Woman, and I honestly wasn't really excited to see this movie. I was like, you know, this is going to be another shitty DC movie. And I also thought that it was going to be extremely politicized. I thought it was going to be like, oh my god, I'm a woman. Did you know that I'm a woman? And, you know, I feel like at the end of the day, you should know that, you know, did I mention that I'm a woman? And it wasn't like that. Jesus Christ, the traffic is serious today. So I really didn't want to see a movie that was going to be like, oh my god, you know, I'm a woman. It's like, you know, I believe in like, you know, women's rights and shit like that. You know, I'm not like voting for Sharia law. So I don't really need that preached at me, I don't feel like. And thankfully, I got into this movie, and it wasn't like that at all. In fact, it was quite the opposite. I feel like the feminist undertones and stuff were just that. They were undertones, and it only in the instances where it really made sense to sort of like highlight the fact that she's a woman and she's going to be treated unfairly for the time. It makes sense when she walks into like the war room or like the parliament, whatever that was supposed to be, and the guys are all like, what the fuck is a woman doing in here? It's like 1916 or whatever the fuck World War I took place. So yeah, like, you know, the suffrage movement hasn't happened yet. None of this shit has happened yet, so that like there's no equality between men and women yet. So it makes sense that that these people, these men in high-ranking positions in the government, would be like, you know, what the fuck do you think you're doing here? That makes sense. And so that doesn't feel like they're just, you know, trying to push this agenda. And then, so that was one of my main worries, right? Thankfully, it was squashed almost immediately. It didn't feel like that at all. And then I also felt like this is a DC movie, and they've had a severe track record of just making the movie dark and fucking and gloomy and shitty and really cynical, you know? So I'm sitting here thinking like, are they about to make Wonder Woman cynical, or are they going to make this movie, you know, super depressing, and I'm going to walk out of here wanting to put a bullet in my head? And thankfully that also wasn't the case. Like, this is I think a good way to describe this movie is, imagine a Zack Snyder movie if it were good, right? So you have a movie that has like, it's very Zack Snyder-y in terms of the action, like the slow-mo ramping shit. It's very, you know, 300. It's very I think they might have had stuff like that in Watchmen too. It's very Zack Snyder in those instances in terms of the way it looks. But imagine a Zack Snyder movie if Zack Snyder movies had color in them. Except for the instances where it makes sense for it to not really have color, because this movie does sort of still have that gray, greenish tone to it in terms of the color grade. But that's sort of like what World War I looks like, especially like trench warfare and shit like that, and London at the time. So I didn't really think that was a bad thing either. In fact, I thought it worked pretty well. So, I don't know, I really enjoyed this movie. I thought there was a lot of things that I didn't think I was going to like. I thought there was a lot of things going against this movie that ended up really working out in its favor. I honestly, for a long time, didn't think Gal Gadot, whatever the fuck her name is, like, I didn't think she was going to be a good Wonder Woman. Not because I was like, oh my god, this woman, like, she doesn't even have a bigger bust size than me, and I'm a man. Like, that was my issue. It wasn't that she was too skinny. I just didn't think she was a very good actress. But I think she actually did a pretty good job. She's pretty serviceable in this movie. Now, in terms of the story, I think it's pretty passable. It's pretty good. It's pretty good for a superhero movie, right? The way I like to describe this movie's story is sort of like, imagine Captain America 1 if it were good. That's sort of how I like to describe Wonder Woman in terms of story. That's sort of how it works for me. I think the love relationship between her and Steve Trevor seems a little forced sometimes. I liked the dialogue between them. I think that they were really funny together. That's another thing. This movie was actually funny and not just like a drag. Like I said, you know, I didn't walk out of this movie and have a gun to my head. So that's a plus. The villains, however, this is probably one of the only gripes I have with this movie, in all honesty. The villains were just tragic. Really. I mean, just quite tragic. Miss Poison, whatever that bitch's name is, she was like a Joel Schumacher level cartoon. I felt like I was watching a Joel Schumacher level cartoon. Like this, like Patty Jenkins walked in there and she was like, "Hey, villains, don't fucking act." You know, like I felt like they were like acting in, you know, vaudeville films, you know, like black and white, like, "Oh, I'm super animated, like, because they were just so extra, you know, like just so fucking extra. Her and the guy who was the red herring Ares were just so extra, it was ridiculous. And then eventually, you know, spoilers, you end up finding out who the real Ares is, and I thought he was pretty good, but I honestly saw that twist coming from one trench to another. Get it? Because World War I, trench warfare. See what I did there? So all around, I really fucking liked this movie, and honestly, I'll probably see it 1 or 2 more times, maybe. That might be an exaggeration, but I'm definitely going to see this movie again before it leaves theaters, I think. Because, one, I don't think there's that much else coming out in the next month or so. I could be wrong because I don't keep track of this shit anymore, but I think this movie is really fun. And just real quick, I want to talk about the fact that, like, look, I grew up with Spider-Man, X-Men, Superman Returns, Batman Begins, The Dark Knight, what else did I grow up with? A whole bunch, Daredevil, a whole bunch of fucking superhero movies that came out, and like, you know, these characters with really great and honorable ideals, right? So I grew up with all these characters, and honestly, I don't know if this is how it is for a lot of people, maybe it's not, but for me, characters like Spider-Man and Batman really sort of like helped me, you know, find a moral compass in a way. Like, I'm sure I'd be a good person regardless, but what I'm saying is, like, knowing that there's a fucking bug in my car, and it's not a spider. Anyway, knowing that Spider-Man always does the right thing, no matter what, even if he is walking through the forest to my right and there's no one around, he's gonna do the right thing. That is what I fucking love about Spider-Man, because that is an incredibly beautiful ideal to strive for, especially for children. You know, like, imagine, you know, instilling that into a kid instead of something, you know, that just like drags the kid down or something, you know, like bringing something like that into a kid's life is really good. And I think having that in my life really helped me, because at the end of the day, like, if I can do the right thing or the wrong thing, even if the wrong thing might service me, a lot of times I'm gonna do the right thing, and it's in huge part because of Spider-Man. So I don't know, I love Spider-Man, and I think that a lot of young girls are gonna go see Wonder Woman, as made evident by the $228 million it's made in its opening weekend, and they're gonna go see this movie and they're gonna be like, holy shit. And hold on, I do want to make this point. I do think that little girls could go see Spider-Man the same way I did and get the same thing out of it. However, I do think that there's a lot of people in the world who need a character that is more like them, right? So having a character that is a woman or a girl is probably helpful for a lot of those young girls, right? So having a girl like that who strives for like these great ideals, who's like, you know, love conquers all and shit like that, like that's a really pretty beautiful thing for little girls to grow up with, I feel like. So at the end of the day, I fucking loved this movie. Maybe didn't love it, I really liked it. I thought it was a good movie. Probably not the best movie of the year by any means, but definitely a fun movie, definitely a good movie. If you've got a little niece or a little daughter or something in your life, go take her to the movies and take her to go see Wonder Woman, because it's a good movie for little girls, I feel like, and it's a good movie for everyone else. And that's really the important thing here, is that it doesn't matter fucking if you're a 78-year-old man, or if you're a 6-year-old girl, or if you're somewhere in between, you're gonna probably enjoy this movie. So yeah, that's my review of Wonder Woman. What'd you think, Jurgen? Oh yeah, forgot. Hey, so hopefully you guys enjoyed my review of Wonder Woman. Sorry Jurgen couldn't be here to help me. What are you gonna do? You know, a guy has to do what he has to do. So hopefully you guys enjoyed it. If you want to, you can check out some videos over here on the right. You can watch my podcast, some clips from it, or some of the best episodes, or you can watch one of the other videos we've done here on the channel. And make sure you subscribe, click the like button, things like that if you're into the video. If you're not, fuck you. Hope you die.